This is it. Storytime with Brad. Space Edition. The budget is limitless. We are going into outer space. You think we didn't shoot this one in outer space? I promise you, you're going to see outer space footage in this one. We went into outer space. I am not kidding you. Storytime with Brad is today. I am Neil Armstrong. If you didn't guess it, how did you not guess it? Because this is the actual helmet that Neil Armstrong wore when he went to the moon. It's true. This is not something I bought in a costume shop that got delivered yesterday, because you can't even get anything anymore delivered. This is not a giant egghead, which is what my kids called it. It's not an egghead. It's the real helmet. We are reading about Neil Armstrong because Neil Armstrong never used the word I. He used the word we. We did this. We accomplished it. Remember when humility was a great American value? We're going to bring it back again. That's what today's story time is. So let's get started. Here we go. I am Neil Armstrong. I have the book here somewhere. This is, wait, that's the Millennium Falcon. No, we don't want that. I got this. Let's try to wrench it. I have it here somewhere. This is Guardians of the Galaxy. That's a good movie. The reason I'm showing you, by the way, all these Lego, we are a huge Lego house. You'll see at the end of this story time, my favorite Lego set of all time. I almost brought the Lego Death Star. That's number 2. But the reason we're focusing on this Lego in this building is because this is an episode about engineering, about finding solutions. And I love that we get to do that when we get to build these amazing rocket ships. So here we go. I am Neil Armstrong, by my favorite author, Brad Meltzer, as always, illustrated by the amazing, spectacular Christopher Eliopoulos, super duper artist. Here we go. I am Neil Armstrong. I am Neil Armstrong in outer space, establishing shot. I grew up on a farm with no electricity. When I was 8 years old, my goal was to climb this silver maple tree, the biggest one in my backyard. It seemed impossible. The tree was so big, and I was so small. How would I do it? I'd need to be brave. I wasn't a brave kid, though. Back in Ohio, when I was 3 years old, I got scared when we went to see Santa Claus. I'd also need to be smart. As a kid, I loved to read. In first grade, I read more than 100 books. Really? Yep, more than 100 in 1 year. Finally, I'd need to be patient. During Monopoly games, when my brother would get upset, he'd kick the table. I always stayed calm, and calm, you'll see, is important. Yet to climb that huge tree, the only way to get to the top was this. I had to take that first step. Up we go. Climbing the tree was like a puzzle. I needed to pick the right branches in the right order. I had to engineer or figure out a solution. I had to use my brain even more than my body. Plus, I loved the feeling of being up so high. But then I grabbed a dead branch and crack. I fell 15 feet. I landed flat on my back. Kapow. Should I get mama? His sister says. Yeah. Luckily, I wasn't hurt. On that day, I did learn not to grab dead branches. But the most important thing I did was to get back up again.
Next time I'm going even higher. You want to climb a taller tree?
Success never comes easily. It takes hard work. And when it came to hard work, I was really good at that. At 10 years old, I mowed grass at a cemetery for 10 cents an hour. Then I worked in a bakery. I was so small I could fit into the mixing vats to clean them. Those jobs helped pay for the one thing I love more than anything else. Airplanes. But what is this? This is not an airplane. Get this out of here. That was a TIE fighter. The budget is going to be big. You're going to see outer space. My mom bought me my first toy plane when I was 2 or 3 years old. After that, I was always zooming around the house and through the neighborhood. Vroom! That kid really likes planes, doesn't he?
I'm going to fly a plane one day. A real one. I wonder if you'll really learn to fly someday. I think we're about to find out.
When I was 6, I took my first real airplane ride in an aluminum high-wing monoplane called the Tin Goose. The 12 seats inside were all wicker chairs. It rattled like crazy, and his dad says, "This is not a good idea." My dad was scared. I enjoyed it. I became obsessed with learning about planes, reading about them, even building them. This is a built plane, but it is Darth Vader's TIE fighter. That is not what we're looking for. Sorry. This is what happens when you work with your children. As a kid, I built so many model airplanes, they covered my entire bedroom and part of the basement. By the time I was 15, instead of buying toy airplanes, I started saving my money for flying lessons. I worked 3 jobs, making 40 cents an hour. It took me 22 hours to play for a single flying This is the same thing from before. This is the TIE fighter. I want a real plane and I want a rocket in outer space. Okay, here we go. It took me 22 hours to pay for a single lesson. You really like planes, don't you? What gave you that idea, he says. By 16 years old, I got my real pilot's license, even before I got my driver's license. As a teenager, I loved flying so much, I'd have the same dream over and over. In the dream, by holding my breath, I could hover over the ground. I didn't fly or really move. I'd just float there. When I got older, I joined the Navy, flying in 78 missions during the Korean War. On one of them, my plane lost its wings, so I needed to eject and get out immediately. I'd never taken ejection training, so even though my plane was about to crash, I had to stay calm and read the directions written on the seat. Let's see how to open the parachute. There you go. I landed safely in the water. By the end of the war, the US gave me many war medals, though I never bragged about them. I'd been taught to stay humble. In college, I studied how to be an engineer, which is a person who designs and builds machines and structures. That love of engineering led me to become a test pilot. And he's here in the X-15 rocket plane. It went up 4,520 miles per hour, otherwise known as Mach 6. That's still the fastest anyone has ever moved in a man-powered aircraft. Engineers, test and learn, test and learn. By flying that rocket, we learn new things about aerodynamics, how air affects a plane, hypersonic speed, and the best materials to use on airplanes. Making things better, that's engineering. In 1957, the space race had begun. Both America and the Soviet Union were competing to be the first into outer space. The Soviets sent the first satellite into space. It was named Sputnik. Then they sent the first living creatures that survived space travel, 2 dogs named Strelka and Belka. They say woof. The Soviet Union also sent the first human, Yuri Gagarin, into space, though we sent a person named Alan Shepard soon after. America wanted to catch up, so President John F. Kennedy issued a challenge that year. I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon. Man on the moon, can you imagine that? Not even the Soviets had traveled that far. So how would we manage to climb that high? The only thing we knew for sure was this. We'd have to engineer a solution. We needed new ideas, new equipment, and to fly all the way to the moon, we needed a new type of pilot, an astronaut who wore equipment like this. From all across the country, people, including me, applied to be astronauts for NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. To check if we could handle space, NASA put us through lots of wild tests. Here, they shot ice water into my ear to see how I'd react to the cold. In another test, watch this, they put me in a black room. Plink! Look at that, no lights. It's black now, right? No lights, no clocks, and they told me to come out after 2 hours. They were testing if we could judge time without tools. I sang this song over and over. 15 men in a boarding house bed, roll over, roll over. Since I knew how long the song was, I used it to mark time. Blink. That's smart, right? They even put me in a really hot room where it got up to 145 degrees Fahrenheit. Oh, so hot. To keep my body heat normal, I did nothing but sit still. I tried to not even think. And of course, they spun me around and around and around. This is centrifuge training. It lets you feel the speed of re-entering Earth's atmosphere. As you're approaching 115 Gs, meaning the forces your speed pushes against you with 15 times your own weight, your eyeballs flatten and you can't see. He passes every test. To get to the moon, NASA had a step-by-step plan. The Mercury missions would take Americans into space, and the Gemini missions would take us into orbit around the Earth. With each step, we would get a little farther and go a little higher. In March of 1966, I was ready for my first space flight on the Gemini 8. The goal was to fly alongside and dock with another spacecraft so we were both linked together. Look at the Earth from up here. I wonder if I can see my house in Houston. It was the first time 2 spacecraft ever connected in space. Everyone started celebrating the moment we were docked. And then suddenly we were undocked again and spinning out of control. Something's wrong. What's happening, Gemini? Are you okay? We're tumbling end over end. There's a short circuit in one of our thrusters. This is high-tech special effects you're watching here. If we can't stop spinning, the force will tear the ship apart. After all those years as a test pilot, I knew how to stay calm. I kept my eyes on the controls so I could fire another thruster to stop our spin. The mission had to be stopped earlier than planned. We landed safely, but it taught me another lesson. Nothing in space is easy. Over and over, there were setbacks and devastating crashes. During a practice session on the launch pad, astronauts Gus Grissom, Ed White, and Roger Chaffee were killed when a frayed wire caught an accidental fire. In the Soviet Union, cosmonauts, the Russian term for astronauts, they died too. At times, going to the moon seemed impossible, but we never let it stop us. With each setback, we learned how to strengthen the Apollo spacecraft, which would take us to the moon. The Apollo 8 just made the first orbit of the moon. Look at this footage, it's amazing. Whenever I talked about flying an aircraft or a spacecraft, I used the term we. That's because every accomplishment any of us achieved required the help of so many others. From scientists and engineers to welders and mathematicians, to tailors who sewed the spacesuits, and to the astronauts from the previous missions. Catherine, would you check these numbers? You ever see Hidden Figures? It's Catherine Johnson. And of course, John Glenn. When Apollo 11 was finally ready, I said to the flight director, please tell everyone who worked on this that this is their launch. Again, humility. Tell them they'll be riding with us all the way. All that was left now was to proceed with the steps in the plan. Here we go. You ready? Step 1. The giant Saturn V rocket had 3 stages. When each stage burned its fuel, the next stage would take over, giving us enough lift to get us out of Earth's gravity and into the moon's orbit. They were up here in the command module, which we call Columbia. Step 2. When we reached the moon, the command module would park, circling the moon and staying in orbit. We would move to the lunar module, and then the lunar module would go down to the surface. Step 3. When we were ready to leave, the lunar module would lift off from the moon. It would have to perfectly dock with the command module. And step 4, then we would climb back into the command module, fire the rocket on the service module, and come back to Earth. One key question remained. Would it work? On July 16th, 1969, at Florida's Cape Kennedy, almost 1 million people were there to watch. There were 3 of us on board: Buzz Aldrin, lunar module pilot; Michael Collins, command module pilot; Neil Armstrong, commander. On launch pad 39A, after a 417-step checklist to make sure everything was perfect, the countdown began.
12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. 4, 3, 2, 1,
0. All engines running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
We were going over 24,200 miles an hour as the 3rd stage rocket pushed us free of Earth's gravity. Here's step 1. Saturn V separates successfully. So how was the view? Look at that sunrise. Get a picture of that. I love this part of the book. If you get the book, watch this. Ooh. There's nothing on Earth quite like it. Look at that. Chris drew it. And he drew it on like 15 sheets of paper. Since there's no gravity in space, everything floated, including our food. So we'd eat our meals out of small bags. My favorite was spaghetti with meat sauce. For water, we'd drink from a 6-foot tube. And to sleep, we could either stay wrapped in a bag-like hammock or float with a lap belt. 3 days later, it took 3 days to get there. Our destination was right in front of us. It's spectacular. Hello, moon. Remember our plan? We were still following it, step by step. Buzz and I got into Eagle. Step 2, lunar module, Eagle, heads to the surface. Check. You're go for power descent. Landing was hard. Back then, our radar and instruments weren't very accurate. We couldn't even tell how high we were. I had to use a stopwatch and quick math to figure it out. We realized we weren't close to our landing spot. The ground wasn't smooth. There were rocks as big as cars. I never panicked, even when we had less than a minute of fuel left. I trained my whole life for this moment. Okay, looks like a good area here. The landing was so soft, we barely felt it. Houston Tranquility Base here.
The Eagle has landed.
Okay, let's get on with it. Now came the hardest part of all. Ready for it? This is the moon. For nearly a decade, my goal was to reach it. It seemed impossible. The moon was so far, and we were so small. How did we do it? We had to be brave. We had to be smart. We had to be patient. But to really make it happen, I had to take that first step. It was 10:56 p.m. Eastern Time, Sunday, July 20th, 1969. 1/5 of the world's population was watching on TV. That's one small step for man.
One giant leap for mankind.
Yeah, they put that flag there too. You know my favorite part. In my life, people called me a test pilot, an astronaut, a space traveler. But to reach the stars, I needed to be an engineer. Engineers search for solutions. They solve problems. How? By testing and failing and testing and failing. It is the key to success and also the key to life. It was never just one small step that got me there. It was the thousands that came before it. We all have moments where we fail, but failure is not an ending. It's an opportunity to learn something new. Whenever you tumble, you must get back up. Every mistake you make teaches you a better way forward. Here at the National Air and Space Museum, you can see the real command module. Go see, you should go to the museum. And loads of other things, including rocks that the astronauts brought back from the moon. And we left, did you know, 3 items on the moon. 1, a plaque that says we came in peace for all mankind. 2, a small disc imprinted with goodwill messages from world leaders. And 3, as I showed you, an American flag. On the night of the moon landing, someone put flowers on President Kennedy's grave with a note that read, "Mr. President, the Eagle has landed." During the last years of his life, Neil Armstrong was disappointed that America's space program was no longer exploring. If you love the story, think about becoming an astronaut. We need more space explorers. I'm talking to you now, all of you. We need more. And remember what his family said when he died at the old age of 82. Next time you walk outside on a clear night and see the moon smiling down at you, think of Neil Armstrong and give him a wink. Whatever your path is in life, explore your dreams. Use hard work and teamwork. Be brave and patient. Engineer your own solutions. It can take you all the way to the moon. I am Neil Armstrong. I know that every journey begins with a first step. And that's I am Neil Armstrong. And again, as always, the moral lesson on the back, I am Neil Armstrong. I know that every journey begins with a first step. These books are always about the morals and the lessons we want for your kids. So enjoy that. As always, a couple things. I promise we do Q&A. We're going to do our usual Q&A, and I'm going to show you. I promised you first. Okay, someone asked, what's my favorite Lego set? I'm going to show you right now. Here we go. This is my favorite Lego set. It is called the Galaxy Explorer. When I was 7 years old, this was my Lego set. I couldn't find it for years. I had to buy it on eBay. But a reader out there, sent it to me. I went on Twitter and said, "Hey, Brad, they're selling one." You know why I loved it? Because I wanted to be an astronaut. And the reason I love this is, yes, it's cool. And look, it opens up and there's astronauts inside. But what I love is when you open the back. Da, da, da. Moon buggy comes out. Look at that. You get a moon buggy in your rocket ship. Show me a better set. Yes, I know that the Lego Death Star is awesome. We love the Lego Death Star here. But it doesn't beat the Galaxy Explorer. By the way, that's a special effect. Okay, other questions. Here we go. Will you be doing Harriet Tubman Storytime? That's a good question. We will absolutely be doing Harriet Tubman. Look for it soon. Here's one that says, what's my favorite kids book ever? Oh, my favorite author is this guy named Brad Meltzer. Okay, my favorite kids book ever, not mine, not one that I wrote. What do I love? Oh, I love Caps for Sale. Caps for Sale is good. My son he's filming here, and he knows Caps for Sale is one of my favorite books because it's this guy and he has all these hats like this, but kind of real hats, not space helmets. I love Caps for Sale. I love Dr. Seuss, of course. I love this new book called What Do You Do With an Idea? And I'll tell you here, by the way, I'm going to tell you, don't tell anyone because they're not supposed to announce yet. I will be coming out with my first ever actual children's book, not a nonfiction book, but a children's book coming soon. I'm not going to tell you any more about it, but it's going to be fun. Who is next in Storytime? Who are we doing next? I think Helen Keller may be next, but it just depends on how fast Jeff edits. Will you be doing any guest stars? Ooh, that's a good question. We are. A guest star is coming. It rhymes with really ring ling. So guess who it is? She is coming. She is coming to Storytime. She is reading with us. You are going to love it. And last question. What happened to the crayon utility belt? Did you ever get one? Let me just say this. We might have. Oh, it's coming. The crayon utility belt is coming. Now, final thing I want to show you. We launched this book into space. The footage you see is real. We launched it. It went up into space. It came back down again, and it also went up with astronauts. I'm going to show you the picture. You see this picture? This is actually it on the real space station. Our friend Dana Steele got it to an astronaut who sent it up into outer space. Thank you, Dana. We love you for that. And finally, let me just say thank you for joining us for Storytime with Brad. I so appreciate doing this. I know these are hard times. We need to entertain our kids, so thank you for spending your time with us. Have a great one. Keep reading, keep being kind to each other. You're going to come back for another Storytime. Same Brad time, same Brad channel.